Everybody. I'm David Thomas with Shelbyville Now. To my left is Mr. Bill Anderson, then Mr. Joshua Blevins. They're all part of Shelbyville Now family, and we're going to discuss a lot of things that happened this week. We're calling this show the Weekend Wrap Up. This might be something that we have to do on a regular basis, guys, but we've had a lot happen over the last week, and we want to kind of review for everybody in case they missed it. But before we do, we want to thank our sponsors, Dennis Young Insurance here at Shelbyville. And thanks to Dennis and his crew for sponsoring us and allowing us to do this. Let's pause now for a word from them.
What you want with the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
Welcome back to this edition of the Weekend Wrap Up. I'm David Thomas, Bill Anderson, Josh Blevins. We're going to just try to get you caught up on this week's news that happened around here in Shelbyville and Bedford County. And Josh, let's just start out with the first part of the week. We had the city of Shelbyville the council had their study session, which is a monthly event.
They did.
And what all happened there? I know that you covered that pretty closely.
I was there. Yeah, we had a few things, nothing crazy. At the beginning of the session, they amended the agenda. And one of the more controversial items, the rezoning of the property on Jennings Lane, got pulled until May. And I think we're going to cover that a little more in detail later in the show.
We'll
get back to that. Yeah. Meeting opened with a long presentation from some people from the Fly Arts Center. And apparently there's a little controversy going on there about how it's being run, the board. There's an election coming up. We posted what was said at the meeting. We got a counter post from their PR person later that we posted on Friday. So I don't know exactly what's going on there because honestly, I've never even been in the building. But
it's been around for a long time, and it's part of Shelbyville and Bedford County. There's a lot of good folks up there that they do their productions, and it's a nice. The venue is nice, and I'd like to see all this get worked out. Hopefully they can all get in a room and hash through
and
this
work it out. It seems like there's an election coming. I think they said May or June.
May, and then in June.
So hopefully after the election, things will kind of smooth out and they can get back to, because I know they do. They have a ton of events there. They've got an art museum in there. They do plays. They have, I think the Chamber of Commerce meets there once a month. And a lot going on there. So important for the city for sure.
Yeah.
So
and with the square building up like it is, it's something that could be an added attraction. For folks, since we're building up the square, and it'd be good for all that to be cohesive.
Absolutely. Right after that, the company that does the city audit, he gave a presentation on the city audit. Everything, city finances were good for the year. His big takeaway that was kind of interesting was that for the first time ever, the city actually ran more on sales tax revenue than property tax last year.
Let's talk about that just for a second, John.
Okay.
All right. This is something that I know he made the comment, boy, retail's really picking up around here. And I got to thinking about that. I've got a business. I got a retail business. And the reason that maybe it looks like there's an increase in sales, which of course we do have a few new businesses in. Sure. And of course we're piling the people in here. Okay. That's going to do it too. But also inflation. When a price increases 20%.
That's exactly right.
When you increase your prices 20%, it looks like your sales went up 20% when they were just the same.
Well, and we know inflation is not 20%. My box of Golden Grams when I go to Kroger this morning is going to be $8, and it was $4 about a year and a half ago.
So what's the percentage on that? Do the math.
Do the math on some of that.
So, I don't call it 50%. I say that's 100%.
Right.
It doubled. Okay. But if you look at it, it's a 50% move, is what they'll say.
Sure.
But it's 100%. When something doubles, that's 100% increase. Exactly. So you do that type of thing with prices, you're going to have increase in sales, and you're going to have increase in collections
revenue. Absolutely.
And you know, it's a problem.
Yeah.
But I know it. You want to kind of pat yourself on the back. Well, look at that increase. And sometimes I can look at our numbers in our business and say, wow, look at the increase in sales. I didn't increase anything.
Yeah.
I just raised the price.
Went up too.
Yes, exactly. So
absolutely.
bottom line is, it's just a factor that takes place, and if it didn't adjust that way, the city would be short of money because
Yeah.
you know everything for them is going
Everything,
up.
their costs are going up
Right.
the same as ours are. So
Right.
yeah,
This isn't an inflation point, but it's a point I'm going to make. Let's say you get a new restaurant in town. There's only so many people in Shelbyville that are going to go eat lunch.
right.
So one place looks all of a sudden like you're getting all this revenue, but it took, who did it take away
They
from?
took it away from somewhere,
Yeah, the other ones.
The other
Yeah.
ones. That's the point.
and they're the ones that close their doors eventually.
And,
if they
and
don't.
unfortunately, we're
Yeah.
seeing some of that now.
Yeah.
Several have gone out here that,
Yeah.
and there's probably going to be some more.
Right. Yeah.
It's sad to see that.
It is
but
sad to see.
Yeah.
It's the times we live in, guys.
Sure it is.
It is. Yeah.
And these people in the restaurant business, I'll tell you, it's hard.
Oh.
I mean, it's a brutal business, and
Yeah.
you're working all the time. And
Yeah. And you're one or two bad Google reviews from people stopping.
Right,
showing up.
or-
Yeah. Yeah.
if you're not there all the time, what's happening when you're not there? Well, you've got to be there. Then you get no time off. It's
Yeah,
hard.
and a hair and a biscuit can put you out of business.
Yeah, buddy, real quick.
Next up at the study session, we had our airport manager came up and talked about a few things. The thing that interested me most was we're looking at getting some charging stations, perhaps looking at grant money to bring in charging stations.
Okay, that's for electric vehicles, right?
I was thinking Teslas, and he did mention outside the gates, but he said also it would charge inside the gates for electric aircraft. So
Where is this electric aircraft?
I've not seen an
Bill, have
electric
you
aircraft
flown on
yet,
one of those
but-
yet?
I'm saying this. I don't want to get on an electric airplane. What if you run out of power? Where you at?
Well, the same day this came out, the Ford Motor Company scaled back their electric vehicle production because nobody's buying them, and they're going back to a hybrid replacement. You can find this. It was on Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
This came out on Tuesday, which is
Well,
the day
the electric
after
car thing is a failure, folks. Whatever you want to look at.
Right
It didn't
now it
work in
is.
California because you don't have the grid to run the thing.
Yeah.
You don't have it.
Yeah. So, and we don't know. 20 years from now, the technology may
Right,
change, and
right.
everybody may be in the air in electric, flying cars. But
Yeah, I've
at
got
the moment, I'm not flying an electric airplane.
I asked a buddy of mine that's got a electric vehicle. He bought a Tesla about 2 years ago. He's had it for 2 years, and he drives his Corvette everywhere he goes now. All right. And I said, why not the Tesla? He said, well, here's the problem with the Tesla. You don't want to take it anywhere that you wouldn't drive a golf cart. I said, what? He said, well, across town and back, it's fine. But if you're going to go 30 miles down the road, 50 miles down the road, he said, if you're not fully charged up, you might not make it back because of traffic. He said, you think that just sitting there, he said, just the operating systems and the computers and the air conditioning and all that draws while you're sitting in traffic. He said, so the mileage that you see on these test results are inaccurate.
Mhm.
And he said, and now he lives in South Florida, close to Miami, where you would think all these charging stations are.
Right.
He said, you drive 20 miles and never find a place you can charge. He goes, you see them sitting on the side of the road everywhere. So he said, I'm driving my Corvette now. Okay, so we're not there yet,
Right.
with electric, but the planes. I'm just listening to this, guys, and I'm thinking, what?
They say it's coming, and we're going to be training pilots with MTSU, so they want to have the
In
option.
electric planes?
Not yet, but maybe down the road. So I guess we're getting ahead of the curve.
Oh, okay,
So,
okay, all
getting
right.
ahead of the curve.
Okay.
So
Well, you keep watch for that,
we'll
Josh,
keep,
and
we'll
let
keep
us
an eye
know.
out for the first electric plane
Okay,
at the
all right,
airport.
okay,
And
all right.
we'll go out and cover it.
All
So,
right.
Then the last thing they mentioned, which I saw the final agenda for this month, and it didn't make it on the final, but they talked about it, so we'll mention it. And I know it's a little controversial for sure. Would be the city's looking at doing an ordinance to outlaw camping and storing personal belongings on public property, which obviously that's targeted again at what the city's been doing ongoing for the last few months, which is trying to clean up some of the homeless encampments around town.
Now, let's specify this. This is public property.
Public property.
The first time I read that and looked at that, I thought, wait a minute, time out. And then you got to go back and read it because it
Yeah.
sounds like you can't camp in your backyard, but this is dedicated toward
this would be
city owned.
camping out on a
Yeah.
sidewalk or leaving a shopping cart full of your belongings on
the
sidewalk
riverbanks
or on the
behind,
riverbank,
like
or-
we just
yeah.
experienced here. So,
Yeah. So, and it's based on an ordinance that's already in place in Murfreesboro. I think we're basically just going to kind of copy their ordinance and try to pass it through council.
so it still has to go through council.
Yeah, it hasn't even. And again, I don't think it's even on the full agenda for this
Yeah.
month. So it's kind of a discussion point for now.
Well, Bill, I know it probably doesn't apply as much, but you think the county would ever do anything like this?
I'm hopeful because we're going to have to do something. I mean, that's just the bottom line. There's something going to have to be done. But vagrancy is vagrancy to me.
Yeah.
I don't know about more ordinances, but to me, it's
Right.
vagrancy. Now, whether we're enforcing it that way or not, to me, it is vagrancy.
Right.
and it's happening on private property. to
Yeah, and
people,
that's
too.
and we've already got the law in the books for that.
And we've already got the law on the
But this
books
is more specific. So
to public
Yeah.
public property.
Yeah, just something that they can use to enforce to move people along. I think more than anything, having something on the books.
Right,
that,
right.
yeah,
they can hang their hat on that and say this is against the ordinance, blah
Right.
blah blah. And
Yeah. So while we were at the study session, all the talk was, were we in a safe room? Because if you'd watched the news all day, we were going to get an EF2 or better tornado. It was almost positive. You would have thought the sky was falling. Schools were canceled.
Yeah.
Businesses
Yeah.
went home.
Well, this came up. This debate in the office came up. Are your kids safer at home or in a school building?
Well, I'm going to tell you, the houses in my neighborhood, I'd rather be in a school.
Okay,
So,
all right, mine too.
yeah. Yeah.
But this argument came up, and Bill, when you and I went to school, probably Josh, we had tornado drills.
At
We
the
all
hall.
get in the hall. and-
Always
Yeah,
get down.
yeah.
Get down by that concrete block
Right.
wall, and cover your head. And
You think that the law has changed so much, and you see so many lawsuits for all these different things happening, that our school systems are on edge, thinking, well, we got to watch our backs from every angle. So let's get the kids out here and get them home because we don't want a lawsuit. You think they think that?
Did you all see where Rutherford County canceled their schools for Monday for the eclipse?
And tell me why.
They said, I think because it's happening during dismissal, and maybe they thought it would be
Okay.
distracting. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's going to
I
be
think
like
it's going to be cloudy, and we're not going to see it anyways, is
exactly,
what I
and it's
heard,
going to be
so.
just like a cloud passing. I mean, just
Yeah.
what, for a few minutes, and
Yeah,
it's
it's a
over.
couple
On
hours.
this storm, it was, if you were watching the radar, it was pretty evident it was going north up. I mean, to me, it was, I was watching the radar.
I'm no
Yeah.
meteorologist. I'm not
I'm
going
not
to comment
either.
on the radar,
But
but
it looked pretty
yeah.
evident.
Well,
It was-
I
yeah,
played
yeah.
our radar for 12 hours straight, a live stream here, so people could look at it and watch for the tornadoes coming in. And just like, well, it never happened.
Yeah,
All right.
So,
Well,
No,
that's good. That's
And
a
it's
good-
better to be safe than sorry, no
and
doubt
on the
about it.
flip side, up in Kentucky, where my
Yeah.
family came from, they had a lot of damage up
Yeah.
by Ashland and up in the tri-state area. So
Yeah.
there were tornadoes. It just
Had an earthquake, didn't it? West Tennessee, when they're small.
Well, there's an earthquake
Yeah.
yesterday.
yeah, and
Look,
there was one
I
up in the
look around
northeast
top
as
of it.
well. Yeah. So yeah.
Josh, what else you got? What else happened at that?
I think Wednesday, maybe or Tuesday or Wednesday, the police put out their monthly statistics for
Yeah.
March.
Yeah. How's crime in the city, Josh?
Crime in the city looked about on par with the previous 2 months. I didn't see any big increases anywhere. I did notice the call response time went up just a tick from February. They got down to under 4.5 minutes, I think. We're back to under 6 minutes, and any of that is so much better than.
Yeah.
I mean, go to Nashville, you're lucky to see a police officer in 6 hours if somebody
Right.
breaks into your
Yeah.
house.
Well,
So,
I'm impressed with how
Yeah.
quick they get their calls and with
Oh,
the
yeah.
traffic flow the way it is, especially
Right.
here in
Yeah.
the city.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to give a shout out to Sam Campbell and Chucky Merlo. They came and sat down and they talked about cyber crimes.
Yeah.
And just this week, I don't know if y'all saw it on Facebook, but a lady posted about somebody trying to scam her for like $4,000 or $5,000, and she said the police told me to put this out.
Yeah.
My sister had a neighbor that got scammed out of $20,000. I know another gentleman got hacked. $400 taken out of his account. This is stuff that we're dealing with on our phones, on our laptops, just everywhere from all angles. They're trying to get our information, and you have to watch it.
And they really
Yeah.
go after elderly people.
Yes.
For example, you elderly folks out there, if you get a phone call and they say your name and want you to say yes, do not respond yes. They've got the technology to take where you said yes, take a question, and you said yes to it.
Yeah.
And that's why they ask you, hey, are you David Thomas?
Right.
Never respond yes, because they're wanting to get you on.
Right.
The best thing you elderly folks can do, hang up on
Just
them.
hang up. And there's
Don't
no
say nothing to them.
there's not going to be a law enforcement body of any type send you an email
No.
or make a phone call to you. They will send you a letter or visit you in person. That's the only way that they will ever do it.
Because if they call you and tell you there was Social Security's not calling you.
No, they're not.
Medicare's not calling you.
No, because if you try to call them, you got to sit on hold for 8 hours, and they don't have time to call.
They're not
Yeah.
calling you,
No,
I
yeah,
promise you.
Here's
Now, I heard a story within the last week. I got to be careful how I tell it because there's people involved that don't want their names out. But a fairly prominent businessman in town got scammed out of over $50,000 online
Wow.
within the last month. And it was a website, and this is someone you wouldn't expect. It was a website set up to sell cars, and it looked legit. And he sent the money for the car.
Oh, my
and
gosh.
the car didn't exist, and the company didn't exist, and the money's gone.
Unreal.
So it's not just these scams that you sit there and you're like, oh, I'm not that stupid. I'm not going to fall for this. I mean, this is just a normal guy going about his business, and
saw a good deal
thought he bought a car and he got nothing.
And this morning there was an article. It was an article on Channel 2 News or Channel 5, maybe it was. A guy that had a food truck in Nashville had to pull his food truck, had to have a big F-350 truck. Went to Frostproof, Florida online, sent his money. Place didn't exist. They took his money.
Yeah. You got a comment about the homeless situation.
Yeah.
Where are the homeless supposed to go? Or is that not anyone's concern? Well, we've been discussing this for the last 2 months. In the task force that we have, is that what it's called, the homeless task force?
Yeah.
They're pulling resources together now to figure out what the next step is to maybe put an area. I don't know what the answer is, but there's a lot of people out there helping. And if somebody wants help to get off the street, they can get it. It's out there. But the big concern is not those folks. It's the ones that just want to live that way and live off the public property.
Well, and I think a lot of people that are, out and, we have a heart for the homeless, but a lot of people out there think it's the government's job to put up a shelter and house the homeless. But if you look at the big shelters, the one in Nashville, I do work for one out of Alabama. These are all private nonprofits, financed with private money.
Yeah.
And that's who needs to be putting up a shelter in town if we have it. It needs to be, it needs to be a 501c3. It needs to be donation based. It's not the government's job to be out there, putting up shelters.
No.
They got enough going on without.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that there's an organization that has just recently come to Shelbyville in the Bedford County area. I can't remember the name of it, but they're talking about providing some open door help.
Right.
Like
that.
So,
yeah. We've got more resources coming in. We definitely need more though, because they're,
well, I will say this: how did a lot of them get here? And all these counties surrounding us can thank Davidson County because they cleaned themselves up by shipping them down here, and that's how a lot of them got here, folks. It's true.
Well,
they got busted in here.
It's
and dropped off.
I think that
all over Middle Tennessee.
If you have a lot of charity that caters to that, that tries to help, it attracts more.
It can, sure,
absolutely. And that's what I mean. These folks are doing this out of the goodness of their heart, but they get it taken advantage of a lot of times. So it's a tough situation. It's a if and but. I mean, who knows? It's going to take what you're talking about, though, Josh. All right, what else we got?
Let me circle back around to the police real quick. One point that they made on their report was they got a nice grant, Violent Crime Intervention Fund grant. So we now have what's called a directed patrol unit in town. And they're targeting high crime areas, out there trying to prevent crime in high crime areas. We also got an additional police canine out of that grant.
Yeah.
So that's all going to help with those call response times. It's going to get more officers out on the street, which hopefully, will get those crime numbers down as well. So that's all good stuff. On the flip side, on the police reporting, unfortunately, our deputy chief announced this week that he's stepping down and moving into the private sector.
Yeah, I got
so that's going to leave a big hole in the department.
Got an email from Brian on Monday.
Yeah,
first thing Monday morning. And he said, "I need your email address," and he sent me his letter that he had written and prepared. And Brian's been on the force for 24 years.
Sure,
and
also serves on the school board. Shout out to him for that. And I reckon he's going to stay on the school board.
This is just a profession change for him.
Right.
I think he felt like it was he's being called into something different, and that's what he's following that.
Right.
But it's gonna take a little while for the department to reset after he leaves.
Yeah.
And he's going to stay till August 25th, April 20th.
Later in the month. Yeah. So I'm going to skip over Thursday real quick because it's going to tie into Jennings Lane. Let's jump to Friday. Friday morning at 8:00, we had our Joint Economic Community Development Board met. And that is the mayors of all the towns in the county, which Mayor Wartrace, Normandy Bell Buckle was there. Normally our city mayor would be there. Shout out to our city mayor. He's been sick all week, so he was still home under the weather. Scott Collins was there filling in for him. Normally our county mayor was there. He wasn't there. I'm not sure where he was at, but we had some county representatives.
Yeah.
But a couple points were brought up at that meeting, and one is a quiz for you two gentlemen. What would you expect would be the top 3 tourist attractions in Bedford County, as recently named by the State Tourism Board?
The Celebration.
That's one.
Yeah, is it? Okay. It's got to be Uncle Nearest.
Uncle Nearest is one of the top 3.
Okay, there's this last one is the trick question.
The last one is the trick question.
Duck River.
It is not Duck River.
It's, all the launch points in Bedford County.
Yeah.
We are big in that area for
Right.
kayakers.
Yeah,
I do
we
know
are.
that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all right. Lay it on.
I'm gonna have to go to you. It's Bell Buckle. So Bell
I
Buckle.
can see
okay,
that.
okay,
Yeah,
the
craft
craft
fair,
fair
I
and
can
all
Because
that.
of
Yeah,
the craft
okay,
fair
makes
and
sense.
RC Colas. So
Yeah.
so those are our three big
That makes
tourist
sense.
attractions. And Shane Hooper spoke on tourism, and that's one of the things they're trying to do with the partnership is get us up from 49 to 45 in tourism in the state as far as counties. And those are our top three right now. So
Well, let me ask you guys this.
Yeah.
All right. After living here for my entire life, and Bill,
Right.
your
I have.
entire life, and you're a transplant,
I'm
and
a
you're
transplant.
here, and you got your roots here now.
Yeah.
If you're from Minnesota and you get to map out and you say, let's go to Shelbyville, Tennessee for vacation this year, what made you do that?
I don't have an answer for that one.
Only thing I know that brings people from out of state is the celebration.
I know.
Yeah.
So what are we getting people from Tennessee that are just 30, 45 minutes away coming to see, to the craft fair
Oh, for sure.
and then
Yeah.
maybe to the Humble Baron to see the world's largest bar. Is that what
Yeah.
it is?
And I know. I
see
think they're
people-
trying to get a whiskey tour eventually, like Kentucky's got,
Right.
or
Right. The
near
Bourbon
George
Trail,
Dickel.
yeah.
You got.
Yeah.
They would like to have something like Kentucky's
Yeah.
got.
Yeah.
I don't think
Okay.
it's there yet.
All right.
Yeah.
So these are not vacationers, which I call tourists. These are
Right.
more day tourists. Would
Sure.
you think?
Right.
Yeah, these are
Okay,
coming
that's what's coming.
most is I
Right.
would think are from within Tennessee
Okay.
or maybe North Alabama at the furthest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm not. I mean, you can come down here for a day or two and mosey around and see a few things, but I just don't see. I don't think of us as a tourist attraction.
We're never going to be Disney World.
No, we're
No.
not.
No, we're not.
I know you mentioned some other grant that the city got.
Okay, no, they haven't
You
received the
getting to
grant,
that?
but
Okay.
yeah, our city manager at that same Friday morning meeting, a few weeks, maybe months ago, we had a big meeting where they discussed the soccer complex.
Right.
And at that point, the city agreed to put in a letter of interest for a grant from TDEC for $7 million grant with the city having to match 7. And at Friday's meeting, the city manager mentioned that we got the approval to put in a full application. So we are now moving to the next step and got to put in the full application for that TDEC grant. A couple caveats he mentioned. TDEC has never given a grant that big. $7 million would be the biggest they'd ever given. I think he mentioned, though, recently they've given as big as $2.5 million grants. So we're hopeful that, maybe they're up in their grant game and they may. But we've still got to match that. Whatever they give us, we've got
Hey,
to match
that's
it.
my question.
That's the
Where's
big
the
question.
money coming
Let
from?
me go back
Bill?
to let me go back to this one. This is just me, Bill Anderson, and I said this at one of the county commission meetings too. If this soccer facility is such a good idea, a private corporation would put it in. If it's this big money maker, why does the government always have to fit the bill for stuff like
Because
this?
it's not a moneymaker.
Because it's not a money
No,
maker.
no. It could be.
It's a
It-
tourism. Well,
This just puts us.
tourism drive.
That guy from Minnesota looking at his map. Oh, they got a soccer
Yeah,
complex.
not a Minnesota guy, but it's
Oh,
it's
okay.
across the state.
I would
soccer
just rather
tournaments.
see
Yeah,
private enterprise doing
Right.
things like
All right.
this and not the government with all the holes we got to fill.
right.
That might be a
But
wonderful
everybody
luxury.
else has got one, Bill.
Well, Rutherford County, I know, has got one.
Yeah. Well, the
Yeah,
hope
it's-
is for the city that some of our big companies, Tyson,
Right,
Duck Zone,
right.
somebody will start sponsoring some of these fields, and maybe that $7 million turns into $2 million the city needs, and we get $5 million from private donations.
Okay, so you're talking about $14 million here.
right.
Okay, what does a soccer tournament entry fee cost, for crying out loud? That I heard some people say it'll pay for itself. How? How
I
does
think
it
you've
pay
got
for
to.
If it was going to pay for itself, a private
Oh.
corporation would be putting it in, guys. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah, for it to pay, you've got to count in your hotel motel tax that it brings in. You got
We got to have some motels and hotels, though.
We got to
Joseph.
have those. It's got to be the number of people that got to eat at Chick-fil-A while they're here that would otherwise have eaten in Rutherford County. It's
Right.
got to be. You got to count in all.
Yeah,
that
I
to
get
to
that. All
those.
right, so this
Which is why a
over-
private company wouldn't get all that, but the
Right.
government's going to get that sales tax revenue.
But so this over the course of time.
over the course of time.
By the
But if
time
the private company put it in, you're still getting the revenue from the Chick-fil-A, the hotel, motel
But the
tax.
pri-
You're just not having to pay for
Exactly.
Yeah,
the
but-
facility.
right, the private company that wouldn't get that money, which is why they're never going to put it in.
They're never
So,
putting it in. All right,
yeah,
so $14 million project, and it's pretty much just for soccer.
Well, it's an expansion of the park. I think there's some baseball pieces to the puzzle. There's more. There's a master plan. They have a Facebook group. And
Yeah,
there's a master plan
I've
for the
seen that
park.
layout. And it's
Yeah.
all over on the east side.
over on the
there.
east side of the
Yeah,
park.
on the east side of the
Yeah,
park.
it's a big expansion.
All
to
right.
the whole
Well,
park,
it's something to keep our eyes on, and I think this is going to be a few years of development.
Oh yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's not going
It's
to
not
pop
gonna
up
happen quick.
overnight
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
So
All right.
yeah. So
Well,
now we're
Bill,
going to
keep your eyes on that.
Yeah,
Keep
keep
eyes on
a
it. I mean-
look on that. So, all right, now we're going to circle back around to the big one that we skipped at the beginning, which it happened. It was discussed at the study session. It was discussed Thursday at a 2-hour meeting between the council and the planning committee, which is rezoning and growth, or as David would like to call it, filling up the county with people, or whatever you want to call it. We've got a piece of property over on Jennings Lane, which is just one piece in a long line of properties that we are upzoning in the city to allow more houses and less space. So it was set to be voted on this week, this particular
Right.
piece of property.
It's supposed to be voted on Thursday
It's
night.
supposed to be voted on this Thursday night, and there was possibly a bit of a public uproar over some of the comments that the developer
Oh, it wasn't
made.
possibly. It was.
There was
There
at the
was.
some of the comments he made last week at the planning commission meeting. So he actually pulled it off the agenda. Is going to let it sit for a month.
Okay.
Now, this property already zoned R1. So if you
It's-
put an R1 subdivision in, you're good to go.
Well,
right?
it's annexed.
It was
in
annexed
December.
in recently.
It's already been annexed,
Yeah,
so-
it was just
And
recently
it's,
annexed.
but it's R1 was the designation.
It's R1. Yeah, anything that comes into the city is R1 when it comes in.
All right, so
Okay. Now the
he
process.
wanted to change it to R2.
Right.
correct?
He
Right.
wants to change the bulk of it to R2, like
Okay.
85% of the
Yeah, there was
property,
one
yeah.
little strip of R1 left on
There's
the road.
a strip of R1 on the road,
On
so,
Jennings Road.
so both sides of the road match, and
So
then
it looks.
behind.
It looks
yeah.
like it's just like a facade put across the front of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
So-
And then you drive around behind those houses, and then you've got more.
You got your R2 going.
Yeah, and less space. And it was mentioned a couple times at the Thursday meeting, especially, that there's not a huge difference between R1 and R2. And I'd push back a little bit on that because by my math, an R2 lot has 10,000 square feet and an R1 lot has 15,000. So I plug that in a calculator, and that's 50% bigger.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a 50% bigger lot if you leave it R1. Some of the developers' arguments are this whole piece of property is what's always been known as the Bomb Equine Clinic.
Right.
Just the old
And-
Tillett farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The backside
And-
of Tillot's.
And the developer is saying that he wants to preserve the barns and the area where they treat the horses there in the back. But the problem with that is they didn't subdivide off that piece of property. That property with the barns will be R2 just the same as the part
Right.
that he's wanting to build on. So 10
So
years.
if he sells it to someone else, it's
Someone
already
else,
R2.
it's
You
already
put
R2.
up there and tear
You
it
don't
down.
even need to go back in front of the council.
Yeah,
It's
boom,
already
right,
R2.
right.
Your barns are gone, and next thing you know, you got more houses. So that's the problem with that argument. If he was that concerned about preserving that, agricultural space, I would have subdivided that off and possibly even left it in the county.
Right.
Not even brought it into the city.
Right.
The barns.
Leave
and
that
stuff.
off the original
Leave
annex.
that as A1 or
Right.
agricultural, just as county land. But he brought it all into the city. So now we're deciding.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the commission went favorable to the council now.
They did,
They're going
4-3,
favor,
yeah.
4-3.
Split vote.
But
But
before they went negative.
Before they went negative, 6
What
to 3.
changed?
What changed? That little strip in the front.
The little strip in the front was the only physical change to the application. Yeah, they cut off maybe 9 acres, I think, and they're forced to develop that as R1 on their plan if they go according to their plan.
Now, mostly what's around this property is R1 as well, right?
On either side is
Other
R1.
side.
So you've got Union Heights on
Okay.
one side to the that'd be to the west, and to the east you got Garden Gate. It's R1. The little fly in the ointment is to the south of it, which is a problem that's also going to come up later with the PUD. We've got one little piece of R4 right there. Somebody in the 70s
Yeah.
threw up 3 apartment buildings, and there probably wasn't hardly anything around.
Well, there
at
was
that
nothing.
point. There was
out
nothing
there
out
at that
there.
time. No.
Yeah, so the city said, go ahead and put your 3 apartment buildings here. They gave it an R4 in the 70s, and now every developer that comes out on that side of
They
town
use it.
says, oh, you've got R4 out there.
So you're looking
Yeah.
at something that happened 50 years ago affecting today's
Still today
decision
is,
process.
Yeah, which 50 years ago, who would have thought, what was built on that side of town at this point? So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
But one thing I took out of study session, Josh, maybe you can correct me, is it was made pretty clear that annexation and zoning, you don't have to have a legal reason to say no to annexation or zoning. You can say no. And we've heard before, my hands are tied and this, that, and the other, and I'm forced to do it. Didn't that come out of the study session, or am I misrepresenting it, that you don't, that legal reason to say no is not there, which I never thought it was anyway.
Right. Yeah. Annexation and zoning are a little different. They're actually, the city council is changing the law on that piece of property about what's allowed to be done with that piece of property.
Okay.
So they've got a pretty wide latitude, particularly of the council. I mean, it's
Right.
debatable what the planning commission can and can't, say yes or no to. They would debate one
But even
way,
if the planning commission turned it down, the city could change it, but the city's
City.
the final decision
the
maker.
city has
It's
the
the city
final
council,
call.
not
council.
the planning commission.
Right. The city is the only one that says yes or no on these rezonings and the annexations.
And then I've heard others tell me, well, if the planning commission approves it unanimously, and I've heard this said, I have no choice but to approve it as a councilman.
right.
That's not right either. Just because they
That's-
did it doesn't mean you got to do it.
Right. They like to rely on saying
Yes.
It's
you're
a
the one
cop-out.
giving us.
You like to rely on it, but you don't have to
you
rely on it.
absolutely don't have to. No.
Because we've done the opposite on the commission. We've done that before. We did it out here on one not long ago.
Right.
I think that also I've heard this. Well, the fire department, the police department, public works, they didn't even comment on it. Okay. Well, they commented out here at the park complex about a month
It's
ago.
on video.
Right. Yeah.
It's on- they absolutely
The chief of
talked
police,
about it.
Matt Doak.
But
I mean, it's on
It's
video.
on there. I got it, and we can play it. But
Right.
my thought is they don't want to get involved in the politics of it.
Absolutely not.
And there was something else brought up. I think maybe at the study session that, well, why don't we just put on the application? What was it, Bill?
That they could check a box whether it would affect the service or not,
Right, and then
rather than have to
comment.
make a comment,
Right.
because it is difficult to make a comment.
Right.
Because when you're in a position like you're the chief of police or you're the fire chief,
Yeah, you're serving
at-
everybody.
but you're at behest of the city council. You do not want to get involved in politics, or you're
Right.
probably not the chief long.
Okay,
Right.
let's
wanna
look
stay
at
away
let's
from
look at the
politics.
whole package going on out there off of 41A. You got the potential PUD development coming. You've got the
Right.
Jennings Lanes development. You've got other developments off of Union Station and all back through there.
Yeah.
And what's the total number of homes now that could possibly be dumped in that area in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think Bill did the math there earlier. And what'd you come up
I
with?
came up with 12 to 1,300 homes.
Yeah. If
Oh, if
everything gets
everything went.
approved and
Residences.
nothing gets turned down. Yeah. And
And
some
we
of that
figured
already
3
is
people.
approved. Yeah. There's already a couple.
That's a small
300
city.
already.
guys.
Well, that's
Yeah.
3,600 people. That would be at least two and a half cars. So that's another
Yeah.
2,600 cars.
That's a small
Well,
city.
It's definitely probably a school or two. It's $40 million a pop.
It's definitely a couple elementary schools and probably a middle and high
You're
school.
gonna need
pretty
you're
close.
gonna need a fire station out that direction. You're gonna
Yeah.
need a police precinct out that direction. You're gonna need extra public works. All this has to come into the figuring.
Right.
Okay.
And how do the roads set up for this and another 2,600 cars?
They're not set up for what we got now.
They're not set up for now, let alone
Right.
this.
Yeah. Now the argument from the developer is going to be, obviously these aren't all going to pop up at once. This is a 10-year, project, but 10 years we still
it's
going to
just
pop
like
up 2
that.
schools as well. So, yeah.
10 years to build 2 schools in Bedford County is warp speed
Right.
because of looking on history.
Well,
I
when
mean-
we start into these condos and townhomes like the other piece of property, and they only
Right.
give them 2 parking lots or 2 parking spaces, this is why you see them parked in the street. There's nowhere else to
Yeah,
park.
you can't.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't.
Well, start parking people out on that highway and see where you're at.
Yeah. Now, one other point that was brought up at the meeting by the city planning director, he has some proposals to raise some of our standards because obviously people are coming in from all over to start building here. He wants to adjust some of our setbacks to increase our green spaces. He had a specific list of some numbers he wanted to change. And for me, unfortunately, he asked 2 or 3 times the council and the planning commission, hey, are you guys on board with this? And he didn't get a lot of straight answers back from them. And I think that's part of what it's going to take to change this is we need to up our standards.
Yeah.
And he's ready to move. And I just hope the council.
I
and
would
the
say
planning
this at this
commission-
point.
Well, yeah,
I would like to
needs to
see
start
everything be
moving.
R1. That's just
Well,
what I figure.
John Hart comes on here and he says, if there's not much difference between R1 and R2, just leave it R1.
That's
And-
right. Mr. Hart, you're exactly
and,
right.
And, he brings up a valid point. That's the argument that it's not that much difference. Blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Right.
Well, if it's not much difference, then why are we
Well,
fussing
if
about
ever
it?
development, it becomes 30, 40, 50 houses, start adding that up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
there's a
it's
difference.
a big difference.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
And are-
So,
Yeah.
And are you sacrificing quality for quantity? That's my question.
Well,
and that's this same developer, one of his arguments were, we're building a beautiful, nice, great neighborhood. And then he starts getting into dollar amounts of the houses. And in the end, he said the R2 houses were going to start in the high 300s. And I'm thinking, these aren't nice all brick, high end houses. High 300s in the current market is
just
barely
an
a
average
starter
house.
home.
Yeah. I think that we're going to see this housing bubble pop just a little bit, and our prices are going to come
There's
down.
a chance it bursts.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance that
now,
every bubble bursts eventually.
But Tennessee and this area is still in that place where your people from California, New York, and other states are paying. They're paying cash because they're selling their homes for $2 million, and they're seeing something for $500,000. They're jumping all over it, not even looking at it.
Right.
Okay, that's going to come to a screeching halt, I think, eventually. At some point.
Nothing
so then you're going to have these developments halfway started. What's worse, no development or a road cut in with 5 houses and everything grows up and sits there? I mean, that could happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that could happen. So there's a lot of things going on here.
Quote the Wizard of Oz behind the computer screen, Mr. David Thomas. You're not growing, folks. When you're filling it up, it's not growth.
Well, that's
Filling
just like this cup you got sitting
That's
here.
right.
It's empty right now. I don't see it getting any bigger.
Nope.
But, buddy, you can run
fill
it
it up.
over. You can
You
run it over. All right. That's my point.
Hey, let's talk about one other thing that was mentioned. The public comment towards the Planning Commission and the comments that were made that the commissioners don't necessarily have to listen or should listen to the public comment.
The comment was made that they are not supposed to listen to the public comment.
Hey,
They're
guys.
actually supposed to plug their ears.
Got a question.
Yeah.
Why did the state of Tennessee make us have a public comment if you weren't supposed to listen to the public?
I don't care.
You tell me why.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't care what board you're on. If it's serving the public it's the taxpayers' money we're talking about, and their representation is critical. I don't care who you are. Planning Commission, dog catcher, I don't care. As long as taxpayers' money is funneling through and being handled, then we have a right at the table. That's the reason.
Are you supposed to sit there with earplugs? Are you supposed to sit there?
It's bad legal counsel not to listen.
Well, I'm just saying it's un-American that you're serving the folks that I don't want to listen to you. That's my job, is to listen to you and David and you people out there. That's what I'm here to do, is listen to you. And you're making decisions that affect others. You darn sure need to listen to the public. Because I used to think around here, the majority rules, and we did things that people wanted. Yet continuously I see things we do that maybe 10% of them want, but you follow the money.
Yeah.
Not the people. Follow where that money is, folks. And that seems to be what it comes back to sometimes.
Donna Smith made a comment. This number is on top of the 1,000 lots that Jeff Sweeney told at the county meeting have already been approved for development in the next 4 years. So that's out in the county.
Right.
We're filling it up, guys.
Filling it up.
And we can't handle. We're going to drown ourselves if we're not careful. We have to be able to handle. I mean, my biggest concern is roads and school system. That's my big. And we didn't even talk about electricity and water.
No.
Everybody is in turmoil. Every county, especially on the Duck River. Now, you were talking yesterday about somebody wanting to pull 30
Hickman County wanting to pull 32 million gallons a day for some development over there. And they were claiming it would only affect the river 2 inches.
Well, 2 inches is a lot for the whole Duck River. Think about it. So, I mean, we have all those factors coming in play.
In Rutherford County, you saw a little bit here when it got really cold, really hot, rolling blackouts of power.
Yeah.
Your power grid.
Well, Josh has already had one out his place.
Yeah, we had some. Yeah.
You froze to death last winter.
Yeah, I think it's about a year and a half ago. Yeah, it was cold. So.
Yeah, well, that's all these things have to be considered. And I'm by no means.
And the cost to your school system of what you're doing here, the cost to it.
Yeah, I mean, we just
got through building a $40 million school. What were we supposed to do? Build another one, build another high school? I mean,
how much
paying for that?
How much you gonna raise our property taxes?
Well, I mean, it's not this is not there is when certain politicians think, well, there's money here. Look at what it's costing you too.
It's costing you more. It's that place of diminishing returns. When you reach that point, it's costing you more than what it's bringing in.
Somebody got me to drive around to some of these townhome developments, and he made a good point. I won't name his name, but he said, "Look at the car tax," and I did it. Went to 1, 2, 3 of them. They weren't Bedford County car tax. You're bringing people in from somewhere else. Well, when they bring their children in, where's there for them to work? This is the argument I made all along. There's nowhere to work. They're not working here. They're working somewhere else if they're working at all.
Right.
But you're educating their kids.
And we're a bedroom community, and we're tutors.
So what if they bring in 3 or 4 and it costs you anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 to educate? And they bring in 3 kids with them. All of a sudden, where that $2,000 in property tax doesn't look too hot when you're out $25,000.
Well,
and you're just overrunning the school system. You're overrunning the teachers. And
you look at how Shelbyville and Bedford County was set up when it was formed back in the 1800s. We weren't set up to be a metropolis. We were set up to be a city, a small city with good industry sitting on the Duck River. We weren't set up for what's happening right now. And
planned urban development, the word urban and Shelbyville don't go together. Now, we're not anti-growth. I'm all for nice subdivisions, R1. I'm all for it. I do think we have enough apartments and condos and Section 8 housing, and I think we gave it the office on that one. I think we should be doing it.
Yeah.
And the problem with some of these developments, and we talked off air, and I'm going to say it again, when they don't sell, they quickly become rental properties, and I don't think people are realizing that. And then once they become rental properties, if they don't rent, then all of a sudden it can become, because some guys figured out how to do it, a government-assisted type rental. So you look up, it all looks good now. Let's look at it in 5 years.
Yeah.
Look at it in 10 years.
Yeah.
Look at some of that stuff in Rutherford County that was built 15, 20 years ago. Okay. It's the slum of Murfreesboro now. That's what I don't want to see us doing.
And what I'm afraid of is the people that are in these positions that make those decisions for us feel pressure from that money, like you're talking about. Oh, we got to do it. We've got to have the more rooftops, when in fact they need to do an economic study on it and just look at it. Is this really going to pay for it? Is the property tax is going to pay for it? Or is the sales tax is going to pay for what it's going to take to service this? And you reach that point to where you got to tear the whole thing apart and rebuild. You're looking at North Main and Madison Street. Those are our two main thoroughfares, 41A and 231. That's the crossroads down here at Kentucky Fried Chicken and the bank. That's the crossroads. You look at that infrastructure heartbeat right there. Can it handle what we got coming? It don't. It can't do it. Now, where's the pressure is going to come on these guys and gals that have to make these decisions, and they've got to be able to say, like you say, Bill, we can't. We just can't do it.
Now, I would like to see at some point, we're talking about growing your corporation or your business, growing this 4-lane out here to a Tullahoma highway. Looks like that's missing growth. I would much rather put my business there, a grocery store or something, than take it and put it out here off the bypass up here. I'm surprised that more businesses aren't looking at that.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think where that Dollar General went down here would have been a better location for the Chick-fil-A, because you could have got a whole lot more people in and out with it.
Without the traffic flow. Situation. Yeah, it seems like everybody is enamored by the traffic flow when they're looking at retail.
And at some point, somebody like me lives on that end of town too. It's almost quicker for me to go to Tullahoma than to fight the traffic to come out this way in the red light after red light after red light, or hit the bypass and have to turn left across the traffic.
Here's a question from Robert Drawley. Being y'all are talking rezoning, I have a question. How does industrial zone property get rezoned to high occupancy residential, unbeknownst to the property owners? It does.
You can't rezone without. Yeah, rezoning requests only are initiated by the property owner.
This is on Anthony Lane.
Yeah,
it's got to be public notice. You have to go through the process for that to happen, and that's a major deal.
Well, and the city doesn't go just rezone property on their own. Again, the property owner has to work in conjunction with the city to submit the request.
But I remember a day and time when you had to go to your neighbors and get them to sign off.
That's what we had to do.
What we used to have to do. Maybe that's changed.
Everybody.
I remember that one.
Yeah, I did too. Right here where we're sitting. This used to be residential. We had to go to all the neighbors within like a quarter-mile range, and they all had to sign. We had to tell them what we were doing, and they did it. And luckily we got it passed. But I think what he's talking about is adjacent property owners maybe and didn't find out about it.
Well, that could be.
And you got stuff that happens like that, and everybody's just got to pay attention and listen for the notices. And sometimes you have to look for it. And I hope that this recent bit of controversy gets people paying attention to more what's going on. Josh, if we got anything else?
I think that about covered the week. I don't see anything else on my rundown that we missed.
All right. So, well, let's pause just for a second and hear from our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance, once again. And when we come back, we'll have some final thoughts.
Okay, good deal.
What you want with the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency. insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
Welcome back to this weekend wrapped up edition of Shelbyville Now. And Josh Blevins down on the end, Bill Anderson sitting in the middle. I'm David Thomas. We're going to wrap this show up, but we're going to talk about maybe looking ahead into this coming week. Josh, what's going on? I know the county
Bill,
you got
Commission,
county
Commission
Tuesday night.
What have you guys got to talk
It's
about?
I would assume it's April, so it's quarterly. So
Quarterly reports.
quarterly reports will probably be there.
We cheated and looked ahead, and one small item of interest, the county bought snow plows. Will be on the quarterly reports this month. So
Wow.
What
after
happened?
the snow in the winter?
I am curious, and this
Yeah.
wasn't Mark Clanton. I think that Stanley and them may have done it or whenever it happened. Whoever surplus the plows and why?
The report said we had not had plows in 20 years.
Okay,
is
well,
the
what happened to the
report
ones
says.
from 20 years ago? Because
Yeah,
does a
I
plow
don't
go
know.
bad?
Well, the ones that the city's got were bought in 1994.
Well, that's longer than that. So
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
more than 20 years. So I don't
Yeah.
know, but
Well, these
Yeah.
will last us a good while, and it was last what, about $100,000? What's it cost?
50, I think 52,000.
Oh, is that all?
Report. Yeah. So
Okay.
I don't know how many we got. It didn't mention. the
that's
number,
good. It's good. We got
Six.
plows. That's good.
There were 6.
That's
I
good.
think it said
That's
on
good.
there. So that's roughly just a little under 10,000 a piece. That's not
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, I would assume they just put them on a truck they already have. So
Yeah,
it's just
sure.
an attachment.
Yeah,
So,
just an attachment. That'll be good.
Truck or one of the
So-
tractors. Lots
Yeah.
of ways you
Yeah.
can do that.
Watch, we won't have snow for 5 years.
Yeah,
now,
no,
so
exactly.
But when you
hey,
got it like you got it, you got to have a way
we're
to clear.
prepared. We're prepared.
we're prepared.
Sure.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're prepared. Yeah.
What else, Josh?
Thursday night, city council meeting. There will be no vote on the rezoning Thursday night. So if you want to come out and talk on that, don't. They won't let you speak on anything that's not on the agenda. It's not on there. So I don't have the agenda in front of me. Nothing super
nothing super
controversial,
controversial,
but
yeah.
all that's on both of those meetings, Tuesday and Thursday, are on YouTube. County puts theirs on, city puts theirs on. Even if you can't come out in person, watch the meetings. If you want to know what's going on in the government, watch. That's why it's all open and visible to the public. So,
Now, Bill, county-wise, do you know of anything? Is it going to be quarterly reports? Budget talk is about to come up.
It's about to come up.
What, you will get your packet in May? Is that right?
I think they're shooting for earlier this year. It seemed like they're trying to do it earlier. So it'll definitely be in May. It may be a little earlier.
yeah.
Okay, and there was something that Josh and I, we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and that was the education funding had gone up because we had some new money come in from TISA and
Right.
some other things. And I made a comment that was inaccurate. I basically was talking about the increase of 20-something million.
Right.
All that wasn't TISA money. We're going to try to dig into that and get
Yeah, we're hoping to sit down maybe with one of the commissioners that works on the school
Right.
budget more and dig more into school
Yeah.
funding. But yeah, the school's got more money this year. It was not all TISA. A lot of it was grants and other things.
Yeah.
But
So we'll talk about it in more details and open that up. And hopefully that continues on. That wasn't just a one-time thing.
no, we're growing every
Right.
year. So hopefully that money keeps flowing from the state. So yeah, I mean, that's all based on this whole debate about school vouchers and stuff that's going on at the state level now. But as long as we stay with this TISA system, it's worked out good for us.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, a few things happening this week.
More money from the state. Can't build 2 more schools.
That's true.
No, it
Slow
won't be
down.
that-
Slow
won't be
down.
enough for that.
Let's slow down. Let's slow down. We can't.
Oh,
I can't afford the 40.
Hey,
Can't afford
I
the $40 million
understand that
school.
in June we get the keys to Cartwright Elementary.
Well, it's
Yep.
gone up pretty fast.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they did a
fast.
good job. And the 2 wings that they're building, what is it, Liberty and
Community?
Thomas?
Oh, is it
Thomas
Thomas?
Bank got one.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are already under construction. They're due to be open in December of this year. So they're talking about building those in the same year. So which is good because we need all that space in the school system.
Yeah.
So
All right. Robert Rowley comes back and he's talking about this rezoned property. So when it does happen, where do you go to correct it? If it's your property, it should never have happened
right.
without your knowledge of it. You have to make the application.
I go to the city manager and the mayor.
If something
City
happened,
council.
it was zoned, maybe something close to you was zoned from industrial to residential, and it somehow got you in the mix. That's an error that
Yeah.
has to be corrected.
Now,
I would
but if
go
he's
to the
talking
city.
about his neighbor's property, I mean,
There's nothing you can do.
Nothing you can do if
Yeah.
you got rezoned.
If
you
it's-
got
if it's a
rezoned.
neighbor's
if
property.
you didn't catch the notice,
Yeah.
which I mean, I realize those are small and in the newspaper, but
Yeah,
Newspaper.
newspaper they
What
put them in the
What
newspaper.
we do have
We have two
two
newspapers. Still.
newspapers.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The one I can seem to only find at Kroger. So we won't mention any names, but at least the one I'm only finding one place in town. So
Yeah, well, it happens once a week, so you
yeah.
Right.
no comment.
No
All
comment.
right, guys. Thanks for sitting down, and guys, thanks for watching. We'll be back again real soon with another wrap up for you when news occurs.
Yeah.
But stay tuned to Shelbyville Now at shelbyvillenow.com.
And I hope we got a baseball show. I hope this week. It's
baseball
probably going to be
show this
raining,
week.
so maybe we get the baseball show back on
And,
this week.
it did happen, he says, and my neighbor was unaware as well. If it was your property, you definitely have recourse to go get that change back.
Right,
But if you're
yeah.
talking about somebody else building on another piece of property that got pushed through and you didn't know about it, there was notices and they're hard to find, like y'all said. So
Yeah.
I would go ask questions, though. It doesn't hurt to ask questions.
But I remember a time you had to furnish the letter
Right.
to your neighbors.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
That's the time I remember.
That's
And
not
again,
there
maybe
anymore.
maybe
It's
they
not
don't do
there
that.
anymore.
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
not-
you don't.
not
it
the
was your
current law.
responsibility to notify your neighbors of what was going on.
Right, but
Right.
that doesn't happen now.
And with all these things, as I've said, and I know we're closing this down, whatever you're doing, you got to think about the guy next door.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Has it been determined there will be no adverse impact upon adjoining property or that any adverse impact can be justified by the overwhelming public good or welfare?
And that comes under the responsibility of the city planning commission
Straight there.
off the Tennessee.
I've heard some
website.
things
All
said
right.
that they don't have to worry about the person next door. That is not what this says off the state's website.
That's one of the bullet points.
That's your bullet point right there.
All right. And we're going to end on that bullet
We'll
point.
end on that.
Thanks for
Outstanding.
watching, guys. We'll see.